Amber Heard. Donation blame shifter. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and one of the most important factors that often occurs in your involvement with a narcissist is the concept of blame shifting. Why does this happen? Well, the reason that a narcissist blame shifts is quite simply because any suggestion that the narcissist is at fault, that the narcissist is culpable, that the narcissist is accountable, that the narcissist is to blame, threatens the narcissist's innate need for control. By suggesting that we are liars, by suggesting that we are horrible people, that suggesting that we stole the cookie from the cookie jar, is apportioning blame upon us in some shape or form. And in so doing, what then happens is that this threatens the control of the narcissist. Where one's dealing with an unaware narcissist, the narcissism unconsciously apprehends this threat to control and takes remedial action to ensure that the attempt to pin accountability on the narcissist fails, and thus the blame is shifted. Typically, it's shifted back at the accuser, which is invariably the primary victim of the narcissist. But it can also be blame shifted to other parties, to third parties. It can be shifted to animals, to small children, to the weather, to the man in the moon, to even perhaps a dog stepping on a bee. The point is that your accusation is false as seen through the narcissist's own lens. And the narcissism must not let that accusation land. It must be rejected. It must be returned to you. It must be shifted elsewhere. Because if it lands, then the narcissist's control is threatened. And the most effective way to prevent it from doing so is to shift the blame elsewhere. And this is why narcissists have a victim mentality, particularly prevalent with mid-range narcissists who truly believe that they are the victim and they haven't done anything wrong, and it's always somebody else's fault. So, for instance, and I'll be examining this in a video analysis presently, when Heard was being cross-examined about the donation, and she admitted that she'd not paid it, she immediately said, "And Johnny sued me." i.e., the reason I've not paid it, it's not my fault, it's Johnny Depp's fault because he sued me. Now, of course, as I've pointed out in parts passim, the time period between which she received this money, shortly after the divorce was finalised, and when he commenced legal proceedings against her, was at least 2 years. And therefore to suggest that her failure to make payment was down to him suing her doesn't stack up. But it doesn't stop her from trotting it out, of course. She has to shift that blame because her narcissism operates in that way. Her narcissism will not allow her to be culpable. Her narcissism will not allow her to be held to account. And as reported in the Mail Online, in an article by Kayla Brantley and Daniel Bates, the heading states, "Amber Heard finally admits to not honouring her promised $3.5 million donation to ACLU with $7 million from Johnny Depp divorce, despite telling the UK High Court she had, and blames him for suing her and leaving her broke." So this is very typical mid-range behaviour. Yes, I acknowledge that I've not done something, but it's not my fault. Or, I acknowledge that what I've done is a problem, but it's not my fault. So, for instance, I know I'm not talking to you and it upsets you, but the reason I'm not talking to you is because you keep nagging me and making my life difficult. You should also understand that when the narcissist, and typically a mid-range one, justifies the behaviour as they seek to blame shift, and do so unconsciously, the narcissist will use the truth, the half-truth, and nowhere near the truth. and you must watch my video of that name to understand more. Sometimes the narcissist will use the truth. So, sorry I'm late. I had a car crash on the way here. And they actually did. The narcissist is still shifting the blame because they can't be held culpable for their late arrival, but is actually blaming it on something that actually did happen. This can occur, but it is unusual. More usually, you get the half-truth, which is, I've not been talking to you because you always nag me. But the narcissist omits to mention that the reason the victim has been nagging the narcissist is because the narcissist repeatedly doesn't do things that he or she has promised to do. And therefore, we get that half-truth being utilised. And in those instances, what happens is that the narcissism has to ensure that it asserts that control and that it operates through the blame shifting. That it has to ensure that it can't allow the accusation to land and stick, if you will, to the narcissist. It has to be rejected. And it does so by suggesting that the blame is because that victim is nagging the narcissist. But it edits the film, if you will, cutting out the first part, which is the nagging is as a consequence of the narcissist's own behaviour. And then in other instances, it's nowhere near the truth. There hasn't been any nagging whatsoever, but the narcissism revises history to cause the narcissist to believe that there has been the nagging, which then means that the narcissist says, I know it upsets you when I don't talk to you, but the reason I've been having a time out is because you keep nagging me. There hasn't been any nagging, but there has in the world of the narcissist because the narcissism has revised history. So what you have there is the revision of history, the use of nowhere near the truth, i.e. a lie, and blame shifting. It is a common device of the narcissist to defend by blame shifting, because any attempt to suggest the narcissist is at fault threatens control. Returning to the Mail Online article, it reads, Amber Heard has finally admitted to failing to pay her pledged $3.5 million donation to the ACLU after claiming to have made the contribution, telling a lie. Testifying on the stand on Monday, Heard said it was Depp suing her that kept her from fulfilling her pledge to donate her entire $7 million divorce settlement, blame shifting. However, Heard has claimed several times, including under oath in Depp's 2020 libel case in the United Kingdom, that she had donated the entire settlement to charity, telling of lie, and she's perjured herself. Whether any action will follow from that remains to be seen. Heard appeared on the Dutch talk show RTL Late Night in 2018, where she said, $7 million in total was donated. I split it between ACLU and the Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I wanted nothing. That statement at the time was made to assert control and was part of facade management. Heard does operate an intermittent facade of believing that she's a kind, generous, empathic person. So she makes this comment, driven by her narcissism, to demonstrate that she's doing something good. In court today, Heard said she had yet to make the full donation because Johnny sued me for $50 million in March of 2019. Heard said, I fully intend to honour all of my pledges. I would love for him to stop suing me so I can. So once again, I haven't done the thing that I promised to do, future faking in effect, promised gain, but it's not my fault, it's his fault. He needs to stop suing me and then I can do it. Of course, it doesn't occur to Heard that she could and should have made the donation, and then she'd have to worry about how she would fund her legal defence thereafter. If she had emotional empathy, if she had accountability, she would have made the payment as she pledged. She makes the pledge and then issues the donation. And she would have done it. But of course, she doesn't, because it's the narcissist conditional asterisk. She is allowed to say, sure, I'll donate this money, because saying that allows her to assert control in that moment. It allows her to draw fuel in that moment. It enables her to gain the relevant character traits and manage that facade by way of a residual benefit. But then, when it comes to the actual delivery of that money, some narcissists, or many narcissists, won't actually do it. Why? There's no need. As I've explained elsewhere, the narcissism operates in an economy setting, and if it can get the prime aims in that moment by saying and not doing, then it will. And Amber Heard has once again demonstrated her narcissism through such actions. She shows no emotional empathy for the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles or ACLU because she failed to make the donation. She showed a sense of entitlement to do what she wanted. She showed no accountability for following up on what she had promised that she would do. And instead, she issued the pledge, didn't make the donation. She did the saying, but not the doing. And then, when someone has sought to hold her to account for her failure to make the payment, she blame shifts and says it's all Johnny Depp's fault. The article continues by explaining Terence Doherty, the ACLU Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel, testified earlier in the case and said that so far only a total of $1.3 million has either been donated by Heard or on her behalf. Of that money, Heard contributed $350,000 directly in December 2018, and she hasn't paid any money since. $100,000 was actually paid by Depp, and another $350,000 came from a fund at Fidelity, an investment company. Another $500,000 payment came from an account at investment firm Vanguard, which Doherty said he believed it was a fund set up by Elon Musk. Now, of course, we know that Heard and Musk have had an involvement. And of course, what's happening here? She's showing a lack of accountability for delivering on the promise that she has made, and instead, she's appropriating the assets of another by basically saying, you pay it for me. And perhaps Elon got a bit of spicy poontang thrown his way as a consequence of making that, or perhaps had to suffer some awful acting as a pity play was delivered to him, and he stumps up $500,000. That shows her sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, and the appropriation of assets. The article continues, stating Heard's lawyer, Elaine Brederhoft, asked why Heard accepted a $7 million settlement from Depp. Heard said, I didn't care about the money. I was told if I didn't agree to a number, it could be overturned. We would never settle. I took far less than what they were offering and what I was entitled to. Again, that's an attempt to demonstrate false humility, but it's false humility. Heard said she donated the money to charity, although of course she never did. She just pledged it. And of course, she attempts to use pledge and donation synonymously, something which I will be addressing in a video where I analyse her actual cross-examination on this point. But she says she was never interested in Johnny's money. Cognitive empathy, fake empathy. She said, I just wanted my safety and my future, and he compromised that. I wanted him to leave me alone. I've been saying that since 2016. So she immediately brings it back to talking about herself. And I'm not interested in his money. Oh, and by the way, it's all about my safety and my future, and he compromised that because he's a bad man, and I wanted him to leave me alone. Provocation, blame shifting once again. So not only has she been found out that she failed to donate and that she's lied, but notice there's no mea culpa here. There's not even false contrition. She's admitted she didn't do what she said she'd done. She has, in effect, demonstrated that she has lied. But she doesn't accept, genuinely, that she's at fault. And those of you should understand this, that where you're involved with narcissists, particularly mid-range narcissists, you will get these supposed apologies, supposed admissions, and they're not genuine. They're just done by the narcissism to manipulate you further, to get control over you, to draw fuel from you. That's what those types of narcissists do. Heard is no different. She has sought to blame shift, to prevent her being accountable, to diminish and extinguish the threat to control posed by this whole donation episode. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.